the Craft Beer Podcast. I'm Stephen Shomler, your host. On the Craft Beer Podcast, we tell craft cider and craft beer stories you will love. And as you guessed it, today is one of our craft cider episodes. I do love me some really good craft cider, and I am so excited. Today we are talking about the Northwest Cider Club. I've got two amazing special guests with the Northwest Cider Association. Emily Ritchie, you are the Executive Director of the Northwest Cider Association. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
And Jana, oh my goodness, I have been a fan of yours for so long, and so you now are one of the people kind of making this whole thing we're about to talk about, the Northwest Cider Club, happen. And you're a cider ambassador, those are my words, not yours, for the Northwest Cider Association. Jana Daisy-Ensign. I always get that wrong. Oh, goodness.
You got it. Thanks so much for having us here. And thanks so much for taking out the time to talk about Northwest Cider and the Northwest Cider Club. I'm always a cider ambassador. You know that.
You are. Now, Emily, sometime I want you to come back and we'll do two back-to-back episodes. One about the Northwest Cider Association itself, and then one about your cider journey. And for a long time, Jana would co-host episodes with me. She'd do stuff with me, and I'd say, so I finally just recorded an episode with her telling Jana's cider story. So if you want to listen to it, you can go listen to Jana's cider story. So sometime soon we got to tell your cider story.
Oh, I'd be happy to. I love talking cider. I do cider all the time. I drink cider. I work cider.
Eat,
it's
breathe,
a full-time job.
Sleep cider.
Sleep cider.
So just because I'm such a fan, I want to mention a couple of things that are important to me and dear to my heart, Northwest Cider Association. One, it is a woman-led, woman-run organization. Am I right?
You're totally right. Yep. We have only women on staff at the moment and contract with women. It's a pretty friendly group. Our board members we have half women, half men, and the cider industry is actually pretty equitable in that way. There's in our surveys here in the Northwest, at least, half of our makers are women, the owners of the businesses and the staff, the employees. It's pretty half and half, which is cool because drinkers of cider, despite stereotypes, are actually usually half men, half women.
Yeah, I want to get to that and mention that because that's a really important thing that you just mentioned about the drinkers. But first, I've raised daughters, and it's a heartache. I've got two huge heartaches. One is if someone thinks they can't do what they want to do because of their gender. And that's true in so many industries. Speaking only for myself, does not represent the views of management, but there's a lot of dumb white males who've caused a lot of hindrance and heartache in our world, in my opinion, in North America. And one of this is that women just get either they get a lot of misery as far as not being included and allowed and hindered, let alone the whole harassment and abuse and nonsense. So I just want to celebrate that you ladies are making magic happen, making cider magic happen. So hats off to you guys. You ladies. I don't mean guys in the gender sense. Sorry.
No, totally. I use the word guys all the time. But yeah, we're not necessarily, the perfect industry. I wouldn't put us on that, but it's such a young industry and it's really easy to access. A lot of folks come from different backgrounds. Maybe in terms of employment, maybe they're in IT or something and they decided they wanted to get into cider. It's much easier to just jump in than a more established industry where you need to start as a cellar rat for decades and then you can own a company after that. So we see folks from all walks of life, which is nice.
And Jana, I know you've seen in your time in the cider world, you escaped for a little bit, but then, like Godfather, they drugged you back in, that there are a lot of women-owned, women-run cideries in the Northwest, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think I'll just give a quick nod back to this, that, some of my work on a personal and professional level has been to help curate the Palm Boot Society, which has been founded back in 2015 for women in cider. And it's been just remarkable to see the power of community and to see when women come together, sharing resources, giving one another opportunities for education and jobs and, which chiller are you using? And then we've been able to recently team up with Pink Boots, which is a long-established women-led organization, which has traditionally been for women in beer, but has opened up to all women of fermentation sciences during 2020. So really exciting, big things happening there to keep eyes out for. And I am hopeful, as the community continues to grow larger and we see the power of what we can do together, the collaboration is really something that we can hopefully grow the kind of community we want to live with in the future.
And Terry Ferndorf, she's a chapter in my second book. I absolutely love Terry. She should be in the Craft Beer Hall of Fame.
Yes.
She is a world-class, amazing human being. Okay, so a stereotype that you alluded to a second ago, which I know is blatantly false, but a lot of idiots believe it, is that women drink cider. It's a women thing. The men come and they have the IPAs, and the women have the cider. And I know from just going to many beer events and cider events, that's totally wrong. But it's false. Right?
Oh yeah, it's totally false. And Nielsen data backs that up. They can track nationally who's drinking cider, and it's half and half. It's men and women.
Yeah, and I've been to plenty of beer and cider events where it's the woman that gets the IPA and it's the guy that gets the cider for all kinds of different reasons, including just preference. So
yeah, and there's so many styles of cider out there. So someone might like a sweet cider, or they might like a dry, but then you can get into nuances of how it's made and the terroir or the apple varieties. So there's so many different levels of, once you get to know cider and what you want to drink, then you can really pick the one that is going to please your palate.
There you go. All right, I just say that because I had someone the other day talk to me about some cider event. Oh, the person didn't want to do it because that was for women, and the person that was trying to advocate for, like, no, that's not the case. And it's like, no, it's really, really not the case. Lots and lots of men drinking cider, including the one in my mirror.
Thanks for being a cider ambassador also, Stephen.
You're welcome. I'm just a cross drinker. Probably gin's my favorite, but I drink everything else.
I call that equal opportunity.
There you go. So the Northwest Cider Association, we're going to talk about the Northwest Cider Club in a second, but if people don't know, just in a thumbnail, what happens, the amazing things that you put together. We're coming out of pandemic right now, which I never thought I would live through a worldwide pandemic. I studied it in school. I didn't know that I'd live through one, but it's summer 2020. We're recording this. 2021. Oh God, not 2020 feels like a cuss word. It's summer 2021. We're recording this. So things will be really back to normal more next year, 2022, maybe even 2023. But in normal times, you do the Cider Week, which is events all across the Northwest at cideries and for cider fans, right? You do that.
Right, and we're actually looking at making that a cider month, because a week's not enough for us. We're going to go a whole hog and take over a whole month.
And then the Northwest Cider Association is Oregon, which I have a preference for. Washington, Idaho. Don't have a lot of experience in Idaho. Drive through it a lot on my way to Montana. I love Montana. No offense to the Idahoans, I just haven't been there very much. And then you include the poor people up in BC.
Yeah, so we were founded in 2010. So, that's not too long ago, but back then there were only about 7 cideries total in that whole geographical region. And we're a nonprofit founded by producers. So they said, we need all the help we could get. Let's work together. Let's even cross an international border. And then eventually they were able to hire a director. But for a while, it was just a few cideries. Now we're at maybe 200 in the greater Pacific Northwest. And so we can work together to connect the cider makers to the drinkers who are fans and want to check out more about local cider, craft cider, independently made with, usually it's all apples made here.
Yeah, and I was just teasing to my good friends in Canada about, so there's not only good cideries up in the Vancouver area, but over on Victoria Island, there's some amazing cideries.
Vancouver Island is
Vancouver Island,
beautiful.
excuse me. Yeah, Vancouver Island.
Victoria is really cute. Yes.
Yeah, I screwed that up. Yeah, my geography. It's not my strong suit, nor is spelling or grammar punctuation. I'm so glad I have editors. But I really don't care. If I make a typo and it bothers you, maybe we should find different relationships. Okay, and then you also do the Northwest Cider Symposium, which is for cider makers to really help them hone their skills, basically.
Yeah, so we found we are now at a mass of cider makers here. It's time for a conference where we can get together and talk about marketing. We can talk about styles of cider, making it, growing it, and actually running a business is really quite difficult, especially a cidery, and making sure that's sustainable as a business. So we are meeting annually now to talk together and to learn and to create a stronger community. Really, it's important to work together with your peers.
Yeah, a friend of mine has Crafting a Strategy, his business that helps brewers realize you don't just have to brew beer, you have to run a business. And so many people, I'm sure it's true in the cider world, where they open a cider because they can make really good cider, and they forget they also have to run a business, which is like a whole different animal.
Yeah, I don't know if they forget, but it's really hard, and it's really hard to do both things. And then when you add in those who are farming too, growing the apples and making the cider and running a business, it's a lot to take on. So there's always more to learn, and it is a really fun industry to be in. But you're right, it really needs to be sustainable if you're going to keep a business going.
Yeah, one of my joys and irritants is local cheesemakers. I love the Oregon Cheese Guild. I have so many friends that make cheese, but they often are really bad at their social media. But then when I realize they're often making cheese and they run a dairy and they milk the cows or they milk the goats and they're up at 3 a.m., I go, okay, I'll cut you some Instagram, Facebook slack. Because if I had to run a dairy and make cheese and I run a business, oh my goodness. And so, yeah, there are some cider makers that grow the apples.
Yeah, about a third of our members also grow their own apples, and many of them come from a long line of orcharding families. And so they know how to do it. They know what work is cut out for them to do it. And they decide to take on making a value-added product, which, just like cheesemakers, it's exhausting. It's beautiful. I love watching it happen, and that's the magic that really does it for me. But yeah, I don't blame folks who are like, I'm going to separate this out. I think I'll buy the apples from the people who know how to do it.
Yeah, and there's nothing like an apple orchard when it's just getting ready to be picked. When I was working on my my second book, I was up at Port Townsend. What's Chinicum?
Chimicum, Washington.
Chimicum, yes,
Yeah.
Chimicum, Washington, at an apple orchard that was for Finn River, and there was these apples, and I got the most beautiful photos, and I was at Alpenfire that same trip, and I had the most beautiful photos of these apples, and it's incredible. And it was when I was working on the book that I learned two horrible terms that were very horrifying to me. Spitters and dessert apples. So, Jana, for those cider people know what spitters are, but some people in this podcast won't. Do you want to tell us what spitters are?
Well, I am also visualizing that dreamy orchard many a time in the fall up at Finn River, where I was lucky enough to work for many years. And, we'd slice open some of these apples, and traditionally your culinary fruit would be something delicious at the grocery store that might be juicy and have a large water content and be shiny. And then, what cider makers covet are these little, kind of scraggly apples potentially. And there's a ton of different varieties, but that spitting term comes from, taking that first bite and just noticing that it is so chalky and so dismal for an eating apple that you literally spit it out. So, it can be a hard awakening. The best thing though is slicing up all the different apples and really trying them and like looking at the flesh and kind of getting geeky about it. Cause oh my God, apples are a whole magical realm into themselves that we could spend hours and hours talking about.
Especially when you cut into the red fleshed apples and you open it and you're like, how did this get pink? This is awesome.
Stunning.
So beautiful. Okay, so spitters, they taste nasty.
Taste nasty.
They make incredible cider taste nasty.
Kind of like when you're biting into a green banana or something that's unripe. It is ripe. It is designed to be like that. It was bred to be like that, and it's usually very bitter.
So then they said, well, there's also dessert apples. I'm like, so my mind went crazy. Dessert apples.
You thought donuts, didn't you?
I want a dessert apple. What magic could those be? Like, well, those are the ones at the grocery store. And I went, oh, okay. Yeah. I thought it was like there was a new apple I'd never heard of, some secret variety of apple, the dessert apple category that I'd never seen.
Well, there are so many varieties you haven't heard of. There's thousands.
I envision you envisioning it being a donut apple and just being really happy with that, which there are some really cool. Have you seen these donut-y style? Anyway.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've heard. So side note, I really want to go to Kazakhstan someday because that's the home of the apple. That's the birthplace of the apple. And I've heard that the flavors in the wild apples growing there are just blow your mind. If you want a dessert apple, like that's where you go and you get these guava and strawberry and pineapple notes and crazy, crazy beautiful apples just growing wild.
I just learned something. That's pretty amazing. Now there used to be a food cart in Portland that had food from the country of Georgia, the country, not the state with peaches. And they told me, oh yeah, Georgia's the birthplace of wine. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I Google it and I still don't believe it, but all the experts say Georgia, the country of Georgia, is where wine came from, which boggles my mind, and maybe it's true, but all the experts say, I didn't know that apples came from Kazakhstan.
Yeah, and that's where we get, like, most of the red-fleshed apples, very specifically, are coming directly from an apple that I cannot pronounce. Can you pronounce it? The Nishkowitchik. Yeah.
I don't need to record myself saying that.
Turn to Jana for help. Yeah,
No, good effort.
there's some really direct lines coming from Kazakhstan still, and they make beautiful, beautiful ciders.
Yeah, and a little known fact is that Johnny Appleseed actually interned in Kazakhstan before he did his tour across the country.
I'm going to Google that.
It was an unpaid.
So you have Cider Week, Oregon Cider Week, Washington Cider Week, which is going to be Oregon Cider Month and Washington Cider Month and Idaho Cider Month and Montana, all
I think we're actually going to go to Northwest Cider Month.
Northwest Cider Month.
Easy peasy. One
Fair
month,
enough.
we're all
1
working
month.
together.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Northwest Cider Symposium. We talked about that. And then the Portland International Cider Cup, which is amazing. It's where everyone submits their ciders, and I've been a judge, I've been a steward, and people vote, and you win.
Yeah, so this is also a producer-led event that we took on. The producers were like, I really love winning medals. I love entering into these large competitions where it's sort of there's a prize just to enter. But I actually want someone who's well-trained to tell me if my cider's good or not, like really basic concepts. So they're like, well, we have to start our own competition. This was 8-10 years ago. And so they started the Portland International Cider Cup. We now run it ourselves at the association. And we're very, very clear that the judges need to be well-trained. Thank you for being a judge, Stephen.
I think that judging has evolved beyond my skill set. I'm better suited now to be a steward or a cheerleader on the sidelines of the judges. But
and then we're blind judging, so we don't know what we're drinking. And we're making sure we're picking only the very best in very specific categories. And so if ciders don't cut it, we don't award them medals. In some categories, we only give out one medal. Let's say it might be one silver because there's not even something good enough to be gold or even bronze. So the judges are told to be really strict. And then at the end of the competition, you end up with a really beautiful list of literally the best ciders made here in the Pacific Northwest.
yeah, and I just want to make sure that people understand. You said most places give a gold, silver, and bronze, and so even if the best one there is crappy, it still gets the gold and all the way down. Whereas if this would never happen because we're in the Northwest, but if in a category they're all crappy, there'd be no winners.
Yeah.
And that gives that event a tremendous amount of integrity. I did a podcast with Eric Zandona, who's the director of the American Distilling Institute's Judging of Crafting. It's the American Distilling Institute. I mean, it's amazing. I think the website's distilling.com. And they're one of the few craft spirit events that does the same model. Like, if there's not a gold, they don't award it that year. And I think that has just so much more credibility as an award thing. And you're not just trying to give out awards so people can hang nonsense things that mean something on their wall. This means it actually really is a really good cider, those award winners.
We could give out participation, like Apple stickers, because you were here, but you don't get to walk home with the gold medal, right? Unless it's really the best. And people are serious. The judges' tables get pretty intense. People have a real passion for committing to finding the very best cider, and a lot of great minds and a lot of great palates at those tables. It's something we're really proud of.
And but there is Apple stickers, or do you sell those on your website? Can I order some?
I think Jana was hinting maybe we need a participation award.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to be able to go online and buy Northwest Cider Association Apple stickers.
I'm a mom, and so it's like, on the one hand, you're like, everybody should, be acknowledged and we should encourage. And on the other hand, you're like, and we're also going to critically judge what you're doing. So yes to the Apple stickers, and yes to not awarding gold unless it's gold.
Okay, so now the thing that we promised that we're finally getting to, the Northwest Cider Club. It's a subscription box where you're going to get cider sent to you 4 times a year. And there's 4 options. We're going to talk about those options, but you pick options 1, 2, 3, or 4, A, B, C, or D. D is the 4th one. And then roughly 4 times a year they arrive, and you get cider from all across the Northwest. And so it roughly ships in March, roughly ships in June, roughly ships in September, and roughly ships in December in time for Christmas, the holidays. And I would love to have cider for a holiday meal. Or time for New Year's. I mean, New Year's with a cider. I think I've actually had a Finn River Fort George cider cocktail on New Year's in my journey.
Sounds about right.
Cavatica Stout and...
I think Jana had something to do with that cocktail.
Oh, yeah. She's influenced so much of my journey. It's crazy. Between her and her amazing husband, I love both of them dearly. One of the boxes, you get 6 smaller bottles, right?
Yes. So bottles that theoretically you could drink yourself, or cans. There's also cans in there because cider comes in all formats. But yeah, 6, and they're all from different producers. That's the brilliancy of this. It's hard to find craft cider, independent cider, unless you really know where you're going. Depends on what city you live in. But we want to make this really easy. If you love cider or if you're curious about it, we put multiple brands in one box. So you don't have to pick one brand that you love.
So I basically get in box A 6 different flavors from 6 different cideries, and we'll talk about your boxes have themes. And I've been thinking up themes that maybe you should do my own crazy themes, which may or may not be good ideas, but that's okay. I like just fantasizing about it. And then the second box is you get a double. You get 6, but you get twice. You get 12. So you get 2 of one, 2 of the second one, 2 of the third one. So you have 1 for me and 1 to share.
Exactly, because some of us aren't so great at sharing the one thing, so we need a second one. I'm not speaking personally at all or anything like that.
Okay.
Depends on who you live with, who your friends are.
And then the third box, there's something in the beer and cider world, 750 milliliter bottles. So those are big bottles.
Yes, so like a wine size bottle, and those are higher end ciders. It's our elevated box, and so those are really beautiful, shareable bottles. Or for celebrations, bring them out at the good times, or if you have friends, drink them with them.
And so that box is you get 4 big bottles. Mm-hmm. And so the first box, depending on what's in it, it's $50 to $60. The second box is roughly $100 to $120.
80 to 100.
80 to 100 because you get 80 because you get 12 of them. Mm-hmm. The third box, where you get 4 more expensive ciders and big 750 milliliters, that's roughly $80 to $100 for that one, right? Mm-hmm. And then I love this one. This is the most exciting one to me. It's a combo box where I get the 6 and the 4.
Yeah, you don't have to pick.
And I get 10 ciders 4 times a year.
And it's the same shipping if you're ordering the 10 or the 4. So you might as well up your game and get all 10.
It's definitely the way to go. When people are deliberating, you're like, that you want all the ciders, and you're definitely worth it. Treat yourself and enjoy all of 10 ciders.
And they're only shipping quarterly, so you've got many months to explore these.
But the cool thing is, it's a great gift to buy people, because in the course of the year, they get to try 40 different amazing ciders from the Northwest.
Yeah, and you can gift someone a subscription, and you can say, like, I want to subscribe them for 3 months, very specifically, or you can gift them 1 box at a time, or you can just subscribe yourself, and then ongoing, you don't have to do anything. They just show up and you get a gift.
And what's the website for the Northwest Cider Association?
nwcider.com is for the association. For the club, it's nwciderclub.com.
Wow, you bought a domain and put up a separate URL for that. That is phenomenal.
You need to hit one of these magic buttons, because we just made Stephen really happy.
Yeah, that's so smart. Okay, so people that want to buy the cider box, tell us again the domain.
nwciderclub.com.
nwciderclub.com.
We're working on our SEO, so if you type in Cider Club, we're rising to the top. So, give us a shout out and, give it a try.
Link us somewhere. That's good for
Tag
SEO,
us.
right?
I'm all about sub-brands and subdomains and separate websites for different products. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And so some of the fun packages that you've done, let's see, you've done, where's my list?
Do you want us to share?
We could just answer that question.
Okay, well, tell us some of the ones you've done.
Well, I wanted. Can I backtrack just a couple?
Yes, of course.
I just wanted to say that we're new into this foyer. We're deep into cider, and both Emily and I, who are speaking with you today, have been invested in cider for a really long time and have a deep passion to cider. But we're new to Cider Club, and it's really exciting. And just like a lot of people, we got creative in trying to find new channels for our cideries to sell direct to consumers. And we love that so many of the cideries have their own clubs, and those are perfect ways. If you find that cidery, you're like, oh, please just ship me more of this all the time. That is the way to go. But if you're wanting to try a variety, if you're wanting to explore, we really think that idea of the Pacific Northwest exploration so fits this type of cider journey, then that's where the club comes in. And so we have been learning as we go. I've been joking with you before we went on air that it's like getting a master's degree in marketing, because we're learning and learning. So we've been recreating. So our first debut into this was our Discover Oregon box. And so we just kind of started out with, this handful, the 6 Oregon ciders, and then we expanded to Washington, and then we broke out into the more different options because we thought, there's different styles and different bottle formats, and people want to try different things at different price tiers and from different types of makers. And then we have gone into styles because, as we know, the category is huge. We were talking about this in the beginning. People don't even necessarily know what they might be missing because maybe they've never had a cider that is really botanical and infused with hops, or maybe they've never had that perfect fruit cider for them, or maybe they love whiskey or bourbon and they've never had that gorgeous barrel-aged cider. So that's a really fun place for them to go. And then apples is where we are now, kind of getting real geeky. You can tell that's going to be a fun channel.
So you've done a box that was all Oregon cider. You've done a box that was all Washington cider. You've done a box that highlighted different styles that maybe people aren't aware of.
Nailed it.
And then you've done a box that highlights different kinds of apples.
That's right where we are. Yeah, we're getting geeky on apples right now. Single varietals, special blends.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people look at cider on the shelf and it's next to beer and they think, it's sort of kind of like beer. And it is carbonated and it's often formatted that way, but it has a lot of similarities to wine because the base fermentable sugar is apple juice. And so just like wine, it's really the apple variety or the terroir can make a huge difference to the end product. The cider maker really comes in and they get to make a lot of those decisions. But when you can understand apple varieties and what they do, just like you can understand that with a wine, we're here in Oregon, so like a Pinot Noir is going to be so different from a Cabernet or a Barbera. It's really fun to find out if you're like, a Porter's Perfection apple is usually going to ferment and taste like this. I know I like that. Or I'm like, no, I want an opal apple, or, etc. So there's a lot we can learn just from the apples and the single varietals that are in this box that are fermented just one type of apple. It's really cool.
And what's fun is that there's lots of varieties you don't know. Like one of my Catman Cellars is a winery here in Oregon and very small producer. I love him. And for quite a number of years, he made a Baco Noir wine with a Baco Noir grape that was amazing. And people don't even know that's a grape. People thought I was making it up. It's like, no, I make up stuff, but I usually fess up that I'm making it up. Baco Noir is a real thing. And there's similar kind where you can learn different apples that you didn't know and then make ciders about them. But part of what I love is that I'm discovering cideries. I mean, no matter what you're like, you're going to do Big Sky. I love me some Montana. I go to Bozeman every year. Got a podcast coming soon with Lockhorn Cider there in Bozeman.
They're going to be in our upcoming box.
I love them. But regardless of what it is, and I'll tell you my crazy ideas for future ones, there's 6 different cideries in each box. Or if you buy the combo box, which I highly recommend, there's 10 different cideries in each box. And then I can Google that cidery and see, this is the other things they make, and really kind of get a real sense of the whole cider scene across the Northwest.
Yeah, absolutely. We also provide tasting notes so you don't have to go searching for too much. And right now we're providing cheese pairings. Specific Whole Foods has been really wonderful. They have certified cheese professionals that are picking out the exact cheese that goes with the exact bottle that you just got in your box. So have fun with that.
Yeah, not only do I get a little description of the cidery, but then I get a little description of the cider that I'm getting from them. So I get both. So I love that because I love what's the story? I want the story. I mean, I loved eating the stuff, but I want the story.
I want the story too.
And then cider and cheese is just so phenomenal. But it looks like there's not very good cheese on here. Like Humboldt Fog, that's one of my favorite all-time cheeses. And Rogue.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Dave Gremmel is probably my favorite all-time cheese maker. Absolutely love him.
Well, I think the world kind of likes him now
literally
too.
Best cheese in the world. Wow. So not only is it phenomenal cider, but it's tremendous cheese.
Pairs well with spitters and donut apples, I hear.
So some of the ones that I think would be fun to do. Now, I really, I made up a beer style. Created my own. What is it? The BGCC hasn't approved it yet. Whatever they call that. But I call them Christmas beers, which you get at the Holiday Ale Fest. Like 12% dark, chocolatey, roasty, barrel aged. Those are my favorite kind of beers.
I like it.
So I think you should have like a holiday box at some point where there's different people make different kind of holiday ciders and just have a box of holiday ciders. I think that'd be fun. That's a suggestion I have for you. These are good ideas or bad. I don't know. Jana will tell me after the ones that are bad ideas.
Quick.
I'm writing them down. down right now. Yeah.
And then she'll tell me after, that one's good. That one's a stupid idea. She was very direct with me, and that's fine. I appreciate that.
Spiced ciders, apple pie flavor. No, okay, carry on.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of them I had like that I absolutely love. And my second favorite beer style is double IPAs. I mean, you can tell I just want to get drunk right now. I love double.
Kind of mood.
Yeah, but imperial ciders, like 8% and above. I know they're harder to get through TTB and all that nonsense, but man, you should do a box of imperial ciders. I think that would be a lot of fun. And then I love strawberry cider. That would be great to do a whole box of just different strawberry ciders, or maybe a blackberry box.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we went down the road far enough and we had enough fans subscribing to the club, we could get really specific based on the styles that people like and just send out exactly the style that people love. And if you're Stephen Shomler, who's like, I only want a box of blackberry ciders, we would have enough of you guys to send a whole box just for you.
I wrote down all your notes. I love them. And, I'm pushing for the Rosé All Day cider box because I can't help wanting to drink things that are pink. So I'm just, if that shows up later.
Okay, so for those who don't, so rosé is a style of cider, right?
Well, I mean, it's like a cider. It's a style of wine, right?
Yep.
But it is a color hue. I mean, we could get into the styles conversation according to.
But just tell people what you mean when you say rosé, because not everybody knows.
Right. So we have a couple different ways that your cider could end up in your glass looking pink. One could be imparted from red fleshed apples, which is pretty stunning and really special. And another way is the awesome addition of fruit profiles, which you could use those blackberries. Strawberries are a little bit more touch and go to get the real color extraction.
Yep.
But, you could utilize, cranberries, or, you could utilize a blending of other. Hibiscus. Yeah, I think. So you could, a number of different beautiful pinkish hues.
Prickly pear.
Yeah.
But a beautiful pink cider in a glass.
It's so good.
And it's great for the gram, as the kids say.
And it's, I'm just going to say this, you've heard me say this, Stephen, shamelessly say that, while I love wine, equal opportunity drinkers, right? Like it's half the ABV typically. So when we say rosé all day and it's like, are you talking 12%, 13% ABV, or are we talking, 4, 5, 6% ABV? I'm just saying,
How long is your day? Mine seem to get shorter and shorter.
I'm saying one is a little bit more sustainable. Drink water, people.
Hydrate.
All right, I think we've covered everything related to the cider boxes, and I think people should get it. Tell us one more time that your URL, your website.
NW, as in Northwest, ciderclub.com.
And then there they will see the upcoming box, and you'll take their money, and then it ships out 4 times a year, and they can sign up for a subscription, and I think everybody should get the combo box, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. That's easy. If you're going to be good with your money, just send yourself enough.
Yeah, it's more fiscally responsible to get the 10.
Yes.
The beautiful thing is too, then you can kind of kick back, relax. You don't have to, overthink it. You don't have to stand in front of the aisles. I mean, I definitely sometimes get calls from friends standing in front of the cider, department, like, oh, what do I pick? So, if you don't have a cider expert on your phone in quick time, this is the way to get there. This is the way to show up and be like a really cool host or hostess, and, be like in the know, have up and coming really fun things. I sent both my sisters a subscription, and they like to call each other when they're tasting or send each other text notes and be like, what do you rank this cider? Oh, I like this one. So It's a really fun, something that folks have been enjoying doing together, even when they're apart as well. So something that you can do together with friends in person, or you can do remotely.
Yeah, and just near and dear to my heart is the idea that it's craft cider and craft beer. There's a lot of beer made in the United States that's not craft, and the way I define craft beer, there's someone local that owns the company that gives a darn that's making it, and it can be a big company, but once you're owned by a multinational that does naughty things, then you're no longer craft in my world, even if you were. And I'm not saying I wouldn't take the $10 million check, but then I would land on a beach and not drink the beer that I sold because it's no longer craft. And I'm pretty militant about that. Like, it's the craft, on the Craft Beer podcast, if you're not craft beer, you're not coming on the podcast. And the same way, I've run into people who think they don't like cider because they've had big cider, crappy cider, just made like big crappy beer. And they don't realize that there's this whole world of these amazing people, their blood, sweat, and tears making an incredible product. So you're actually celebrating not big cider, which is, I found, to be a hindrance to people drinking good cider. Because like, oh, I had that, I didn't like that. Oh, because you didn't want to drink, a sweet, syrupy bit of nonsense. Why don't you get a really good dry craft cider and it'll blow your mind? Am I wrong?
You are not wrong, my friend. We've had that conversation before. It's like you sat up to the bar and you're like, I'll have a wine, and it's like whatever they give you, right? Like it's a Gewürztraminer, it's a Cabernet. You would never order wine like that, right? But cider has sort of fallen into that, so people have this sometimes very monolithic experience of like, I've had a cider. Well, the world is a rich and complex place, and we do love that. What we're really bringing to light is a lot of little mom and pop cideries, like just real small farms, like a lot of folks who really are not found outside of their little geo territory. So getting to ship their cider across the nation is big.
Yeah. No, and you guys ship to most of not outside the United States.
Yeah, we ship to about 40 states right now. And on our website, you can check if your state is on there.
And people that order alcohol, they know the states that alcohol can enter. I mean, people now know, particularly coming out of a pandemic. I'm in one of those crappy states. No, I'm in one of the good states.
I'm moving.
And they should. But you don't ship internationally. Like, it doesn't go to Canada, it doesn't go to France,
No,
etc.
sorry, it's not legal.
Yeah, but a lot of people ask that. And I work with a lot of businesses where they're asked to ship stuff internationally. And for just a lot of companies, it's just not feasible for cider. It's just not legal. You just can't do it.
Yeah, no, it's just not legal.
Yep.
It's an easy decision.
But if you're somewhere in the East Coast or the Midwest, and you want to learn about Northwest cider, and you're in a state that receives it, it's a tremendous opportunity. So this is not just a product for people in the Northwest. It's all across the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's made by people who are so passionate about what they do. It is a really, really wonderful community to support.
Fantastic. All right. Well, it's been a delight to have you on the podcast, talking about the Northwest Cider Club and everything you do. Thank you so much. And for those that are interested more, the Craft Beer Podcast is part of the Culinary Treasure Network, and the Culinary Treasure Network does have a craft cider arm. CraftCiderTreasure.com will take you to a link to all of the Culinary Treasure Network's craft cider articles, craft cider videos, and then we do have Go Drink This Cider, which you can go to GoDrinkTheCider.com and follow Go Drink the Cider on Facebook and Instagram. And once a month at least, we highlight an amazing cider that you will love. So that's some of the ways we celebrate cider. Emily, you got to come back sometime. We'll have a whole podcast just about the Cider Association. And then we'll have a podcast of your story. And Jana, it was great to have you on. I'm so glad that people can listen to it next. Finally recorded your cider source. That was awesome. But thank you so much. I love craft cider, and whatever I can do to cheer you guys on, just let me know.
Thank you so much for the invite. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.